Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Euphoria. It's an HBO TV series starring Zendaya and some other people that I don't know from anything else. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off with the furry, I think there's some dogs in this one, some like people's pets type of thing, but they don't really play any type of pivotal role in it. So, moving on to the good and the bad. The good is this movie has some very intense music that I think is, generally speaking, very appropriate for the scene that it's in. I wouldn't say it's very memorable music. I don't know that I would buy the CD kind of thing, or stream it or whatever, but yeah, so it has some good music. It also has really, really dramatic lighting. Like, from the name Euphoria, you can imagine that you might be euphoric while you look at this. So there's always some type of neon colors going on, and as you can see, I'm a little bit of a fan of neon colors. So it clearly had a budget and a vision for what they wanted. And I think that what they were wanting was to kind of push to the extremes whatever experience they were showing. And I think that the lighting and the music really helped do that. For the bad is that I didn't really care for this show. I think that by pushing everything to the extremes, it kind of felt like an HBO version of a CW show where it's a little bit of a soap opera feel where everything's always very dramatic and very intense, and whatever thing that could happen, they push it all the way out to like the most extreme example of how that could happen, or the most crazy coincidence. But instead of just being one coincidence, the whole show is a coincidence. And just, I mean, granted, you have your main cast of characters, so you're wanting to keep the interactions and the things that are happening to and with them to this kind of core cast, not just bring in some random outsiders. So I get that, but it really didn't feel believable to me. And it's a show set in a high school time frame where Zendaya's character is a recovering drug addict, and you know the cliche of how Hollywood always has all these high schoolers shown in movies and TV shows that have these amazing parties. And, I mean, basically, this whole show is that, where every episode there's this big old party, and it's to this crazy excess, and there's tons of people everywhere, and they have awesome music and awesome lighting, and just alcohol everywhere at all these high school parties. And, you know, where I grew up, I did not once see a high school party approach anywhere close to what was shown here. Maybe I just am not as rich as these characters being shown for whatever, you know, I mean, it's probably filmed in California, so the California feel to it, but it really didn't pass muster for me. So, you know, maybe this is HBO's response to Netflix's 13 Reasons Why, or to the CW shows where they're like, we got to get that CW audience, but with that HBO feel, so there's, you know, boobs and dicks and everything else being shown, and you know, it's just more visceral. But it didn't really connect with me, and maybe it's because I don't have an alcohol or drug problem, but I wasn't really able to connect to these characters because it just felt like a lot of it was manufactured, and it very angsty to an unnecessary extent. Since I haven't seen a whole lot of backlash against it necessarily in the whatever pop culture news that I have or haven't seen, I haven't really seen, they're like, oh, this doesn't portray drugs right. So I'm guessing that how they portray the addiction of drugs and kind of the problems that results in, I'm guessing it's fairly accurate. So it has that going for it. But again, I don't have a drug or alcohol problem, and these characters have a lot of angsty things going on in their lives, and I just didn't super connect with it. That being said, like, their general dialogue, you know, minute to minute in the episode seemed fairly believable, but it kind of seemed like they had a couple of different movies going on, essentially. There was, like, Zendaya's character and the characters that she was interacting with, and then you had the jock football player and his dad and the movie that they were in, and then you had you had a whole nother movie going for the internet star It just, I, I don't know how well it meshed, because, I mean, it was clearly trying to show, like, oh, how different high school experiences could go and how extreme they could be, but, showing them all in one TV show. And, again, trying to get all of that in one TV show, I don't know if it diluted it because you're seeing all these extremes, or just made me disconnect from it, but I personally did not really enjoy it. I don't think that they showed enough negative consequences for all the alcohol and drugs. So I think that there's a possibility that this glamorizes it a bit too much. So I think that regardless of what it's rated or what they say, I think this is clearly going to be a show that appeals to people in high school or just out of high school and in college time frame, where there's going to be a lot more desire to have that social drinking party thing, and maybe doing drugs and whatever else that I don't want to get too much into. But I think that they don't show enough negative consequences to really dissuade that behavior. So it seems to me that a lot of people watching the show, with Zendaya, who is a very well-known actress, I think, at this point, from The Greatest Showman and from the new Spider-Man series. So I think that this might have some negative consequences to the general people of, that watch it. They might think that, oh, hey, that's really cool, I want to try that, and I can deal with those type of negative consequences. So, yeah, it's just not my type of show. A show that I think did, or in this case, a movie that I think did a really good job of showing the negative consequences of drugs is Requiem for a Dream. So if you know somebody who watches this and is like, hey, drugs aren't that bad, be like, let me sit you down and have you watch Requiem for a Dream. But they're intense, and they're both rated R for a reason. So just prepare yourself for that. Yeah. Like I said, it was top quality in terms of like the lighting and the shooting style and the budget, and yeah. So I think that if you're a super fan of the CW style shows, but you just want to see an HBO version with, more boobs, more dicks, more cursing, that kind of thing, more of everything, I think that you will have a good time with this show. I personally did not. Alrighty, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope to come to the next one. Bye.